Okay, so let's, yes, we are 10 minutes, demurrage continues. Let's see if we can make it up. And the next session is presented by the Nautical Institute. And we have a person who's here who everybody knows him. And in fact, way back in 2000, he was also teaching me at MMTI. And well, he's also a managing director of a company. His specialties are ship manager, arbitrator in maritime matters, sound knowledge of oil major vetting inspections, including tanker management and self-assessment, and trainer, educator, examiner on maritime subjects. So please welcome Chairman of Nautical Institute, Captain Mohan Naik.
Good morning, it's still morning, Saturday morning, 10 minutes to go in the afternoon. I see a full house here. Would like to acknowledge the presence of our chief guest, Mr. Sven Osberg, Consul General of Sweden, and the two guests of honors. They are not present today, just now, but they were there in the morning. Captain Bimlesh Tyagi, CMD of SCI, and Mr. Arun Sharma, Chairman of IRS, and also dear good friend of Maritime, our ex-DG Shipping, Mr. Deepak Shetty. All dignitaries in the audience, thank you very much for coming and joining us in this symposium 2024. How did it all start? As it was rightly introduced by Mr. Captain Anupam Raizada, it started with some kind of input from our Rajneesh Khandelwal, President of Jembakshi. We met 3-4 times over lunch, and this particular idea fructified about a month ago. And here we are now, all three organizations spontaneously getting together symbiotically and cooperating and contributing to this symposium. A little bit about Nautical Institute now. Nautical Institute is a mariners professional body founded in 1972. It is over 110 countries that it is spread over, with 70 branches and over 7,000 members. And it was founded in India as an India branch in 1992. I was one of the founding members those days. I used to teach at the LBS Nautical College that time, Nautical Engineering College. And we completed Nautical Institute's Golden Jubilee in last year, that is 2022 and 2023. It was celebrated in 12 countries. One of them was India. And India branch, which was awarded this particular honor, was the Kochi branch. They had a splendid program was organized by them. So what does the Nautical Institute do? It organizes courses of various types. Over this particular session, you will be introduced to some of them. One of them is the dynamic positioning, which Dr. Surendra Kumar is an expert on. He will be speaking on it. Some of them are in mentoring, leadership, behavioral-based safety, and many others. And how do you contribute from the Indian part? So we collaborate with our head office in the UK and take the knowledge from them, the know-how from them, and we add our own experiences in designing courses which are tailor-made for various companies, tailor-made for various occasions. And that is how Nautical Institute is contributing in this sector. We have total 4 branches in India: the north, the southwest, the west, and the east. So these branches are doing yeoman service for training various aspects for the mariners' knowledge. With these words, I would like to thank the organizers, and a special thanks to our team of Nautical Institute, especially to Captain Chinna Ruparaju, who made these 2 standees in 2 days. Okay, thank you a lot, thanks a lot, Captain Chinna, and my other colleagues, Captain Kamalaksha Kamath, who also contributed a lot, and our General Secretary, Captain Amit Deshpande. Thank you very much. Please take a bow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. The moderator for The next session is, again, everybody knows, but still there's a decorum which we have to maintain, so we will protocol, so we will definitely introduce him. But to start with, he recruited me as a cadet. So that's the opening statement, and I don't need to say anything more, but he's a maritime professional, having been trained on the prestigious T.S. Rajendra from 1974 to 1976. His love for sea started early, coming from a family of seafarers with sea cadet corps in school days. He sailed more than 15 years on merchant ships, sailing on different types of vessels, and then spent 30 years in ship management companies and ownership companies. Currently, he is the CEO of Maritime Associations of Ship Managers and Ship Owners, Ship Managers and Agents, MASA. And he's a fellow Nautical Institute and as well as the Sea Company of Master Mariners. So with a big round of applause, and for me, my guru, Captain Harvit.
Thank you very much, Anubhav, for that wonderful introduction. We started the day and we were in dispatch by 10 minutes, and now you have handed over to us 10 minutes in demurrage and to make up to dispatch. Great. That is called commercial pressure. So we will, without much ado, we will move on to our task at hand. But I cannot help but make some comment about our guest from Sweden. Sir, some of us have not been to the World Maritime University, but we have had the pleasure of sailing on some of the finest Swedish-built ships, which we didn't talk about much. And anybody from Sindhya or Shipping Corporation will know the Valchand, the Jagadharki or Leela Larki were A.B. Gotavarkan ships. They were wonderful ships, fond memories. Our first speaker today is representing Nautical Institute is Captain Kapil Dev Bahel from the training ship Dufferin 6971 batch, and he has been a member of the Nautical Institute since 1982, which is the last 40 years. Great going, sir. He has been an icon of professionalism in the maritime industry and covering a wide spectrum of services. Like he has been a cargo surveyor, a nautical surveyor, a warranty surveyor, specializing in OCIMF SIRE accredited major vetting inspections, etc. And of course, he has been instrumental, or his passion also has been aligned to maritime education and training. And he is an active part of the Nautical Institute of Shipping in Mumbai. So may I request Captain Kapil Dev to come up?
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Shiv, for the introduction. I am standing in for a colleague, Captain Kapoor, who unfortunately couldn't make it today. His mother-in-law passed away day before yesterday, and Captain Harvey asked me to speak on the same subject that he had volunteered to speak on, which is, in fact, the proposed Indian liability insurance entity. I wasn't sure of how many people, or rather the category of people who will be here, but looking at this audience, I'd like to skip through the first 10 slides because they all pertain to P&I, which is well known to people out here. So I'll come straight to the status of the Indian P&I entity, which is important to all of us. That has been on the newspaper and the news for several months now, and has been gaining traction recently. The new government is very keen. Obviously, it's the first time that I see a top-down, sort of approach rather than just the industry wanting to voice what they want to do. So let's skip all of this. I think we all know this now. So this actually, I'd like to go through quickly as to how the scene was set for the Indian P&I industry. I'd then like to discuss with you what has been the recent developments, especially with IMU and DGS participation, and then share my own thoughts on probably what's the way forward. And my own thoughts are based on almost 35 years of working with the P&I industry very closely, and practically the entire range of P&I clubs. So actually this started off in 2013 with the DGS actually approving the non-IG P&I insurers, and the background of course was that the IRDA Act has no provision for accrediting insurers in the club format, in the sense self-insurance. The provision is all for insurance companies in the traditional sense, which are commercial entities. This was followed after a couple of years with Captain J.C. Anand taking the lead in setting up the Maritime Protection and Indemnity Association of India Limited, which was registered under the Companies Act, limited by guarantee. And the main objective, as it was enumerated then in the Memorandum of Agreement and the memorandum which I personally went through, was to provide a platform for ship owners to come together and form an association of ship owners. So you can see that the initial thought process was for a not-for-profit platform for ship owners to come together. I was associated with this development. Captain Rao and Mr. J.C. Anand, Captain J.C. Anand and Mr. Sanjeev Verma were the people who actually were in the forefront of this idea, and then I was inducted subsequently. I'm having difficulty with this. It's moving the wrong direction, but maybe I'm pressing it. Yeah, got it. Sorry, I understand now. Okay, so this was followed soon after by the National Insurance Association unveiling the P&I cover for inland and coastal vessels on May 2018 at the SCI auditorium, and a lot of you were present on that occasion. Initially, the sum insured was USD 5 million, which at that time was 30 crores. The product was duly filed with the IRDA and the regulatory approvals were obtained. And as explained to me, because the reinsurers GIC were also present, that this product was suitably reinsured by the offices in UK, and it was sufficiently reinsured to cover this liability. I think a certain element was retained in India and the rest was reinsured. Now, what is happening and driving subsequently this is, of course, the Ukraine war and the sanctions regime that we've all been witnessing and experiencing. What does the regime say, in fact? It says that no insurer shall be liable to pay any claim, and such benefits may expose the insurers. So effectively now, the reinsurance and the P&I industry is reluctant to insure, underwrite any vessel that is suspected of sanctions by the G7. And it further says that no insurer shall provide cover if it exposes the reinsurer to any sanction. So it's a far wide-ranging effect, and G7 insurers have increasingly pulled out the trade in this aspect, so we are of course the receiving end. The purpose, as stated by the government, is of course to reduce Indian P&I would reduce vulnerability to the international sanctions and provide greater flexibility to the shipping operations. Now, as a subsequent action, what the government did was DGA then added to the approved list of insurers P&I insurers who would be accepted by the DG, and that list was then put out on the DGA's website. It included these companies, Ingostrak and Sogas, etc., because they were having adequate Russian reinsurance backing. Now, this is my take, but I do not know how many of you really feel that way, because I know that SCI, INSA, even ICC, SA have their reservation on the Indian PNI entity, and we are all professionals in this field out here. So how many of you really feel that India needs a PNI industry, or rather, I know the general feeling is that look, we already have adequate PNI cover, they are doing a good job, we have got a 60-year relationship with most of the PNI clubs, so why does India need a PNI club or a PNI entity? So any, raise your hand to people who feel that India does need one regardless of that? Only 4 to 5. Okay. Or
Yes,
more?
yes.
Maybe 50%. So still 50% feel we do not require one. And let me share my thoughts with you in this. So as an insurance industry, which is a commercial organization, do we have the responsibility to restore democracy or topple military junta, or if us end a civil war? And if a particular group of countries want to do so because they are at war, should the other countries have to pay a price? So in other words, whether we like it or not, we are paying a price in a regime where effectively we have no interest. India has repeatedly said, earlier we were non-aligned, now we say we are strategically aligned or multi-aligned, but we have no interest in the war other than what is commercially affecting us. So we have been dragged into this. And effectively, vessels that are now sanctioned, at a wide range of vessels, you keep getting people in the dark fleet, which are in fact now a substantial percentage of the tanker fleet. The other thing is, this twin policy of minimizing the flow of oil while affecting maximum economic pressure. So effectively what the G7 is trying to do is say, look, we have capped the price of oil to $60 a barrel. You cannot buy more than that. So that, by that way you're putting an economic pressure. At the same time, they don't want to choke off the supply of oil completely, which actually shoots up the price of oil. So there's a multi-pronged attitude, strategy out here. And again, India fortunately was in a position to take advantage of the $60 cap price, but in terms of freight and other things, there was a price to pay. Sanctioned vessels have been defined as any vessel 15 years or over, anonymously owned, a corporate structure that is designed to obfuscate beneficial ownership, and solely deployed in a sanctioned oil trade. Now, this was followed by an IRDA, so this is the background. This was followed by an IRDA notification on 20th March 2024, which in fact listed out what I mentioned out here, where the development of these were all designed to create an infrastructure so that this could be implemented. And the key word here is infrastructure. I'm happy to note that in fact the government is mulling for the thought of putting the shipping industry under the infrastructure regime, which means infrastructure sector, which means of course then we have the benefit of the finance and the insurance to be able to sustain this particular move. It's an expensive discussion. This was followed on the 16th of April 24, which was a joint interactive session for establishing the Indian PNI industry for lease and financing, and it was attended by GIC, RA, again many people whom I see here were attended that meeting. It was attended by GIC Re, NIA, IRDA, Exim Bank. In fact, Exim Bank, the lady there mentioned that they are prepared with the financing of this particular entity. And soon after that, we were informed by IMU of the establishment of a wing called C Primes, which was a division within the IMU specifically catered to do research work, and this body was then asked by the Vice Chancellor to create a white paper on the possibility of an Indian PNI entity. We had several meetings in this regard, and I was happy to note the progress. There were more than 11 or 12 people who were invited to this particular forum. Eventually, it was supposed to be ending in a white paper, which then the IMU through C Prime said we will present it to the Ministry of Shipping. And then I noticed, and then I learned of the DGS order in 2024 on the formation of a consultative group, and I was happy that that group included these two aspects. There were 11 or 12 sectors to be covered in that group, but these two specifically caught my attention. One was the marine insurance and the maritime law and arbitration. Both were very interconnected. The last bit was that this was followed as recently November last month, where IMU called for a meeting at the Marriott, Courtyard Marriott in Navi Mumbai, where again the Vice Chancellor, Captain J.C. Anand, Captain Rao, Sanjeev Verma, myself and about 10 or 15 more people from the industry, including SCI, INSA, not INSA, ICCSA, were all there. And I noted the concerns raised by SCI in terms of a change. I also reminded of the same concern that was, when IRS was formed, that we already have these classic societies and how do we switch over. But nonetheless, and Dr. Saxena was here as well and he presented his views. Nonetheless, we moved from there and we then eventually thought that this will end up in a white paper that could be presented. But then at the same time, we learned the very next day of a DGS tender, which was issued a notice in tender asking for consultants to prepare a document for this. The tender is out in the public domain, you would have seen it. So I now presume that the status is that it will eventually be the route of a large consulting body that will then suggest to DGS how to proceed on this, and then we will probably see this as taken as a stepping stone for the government to act on. I have made my thoughts on the way forward, and I'll be brief out here, but this is a long table. I've got, he told me there's 1 minute more. So, effectively, I feel that the way forward now, if we want to do something, is to create this entity in phases. First of all, I want to stop calling it a club. This is not a mutual club that we're looking for in India. We're looking for a fixed premium, for-profit insurance company that's going to work. So we're looking at an entity that's going to probably be run by one of the insurance companies, including the public sector companies. So my suggestion would be we have this in phases, and the first phase should be strictly for Inland Vessels and Coastal Vessels Act, including vessels in port. We'll have to keep in mind that the present hull policy that I issued in this country include liability cover, so we'll have to structure this policy in such a way that there is no duplication of cover. The second step in my view would be that there should be more. Right now there's only New India and there is no manager. That means New India as the public sector is actually issuing the policy and managing it. From my own experience, it doesn't work. There must be a professional body of mariners, of arbitrators and commercial people, as well as lawyers who will have to run this club's claim assessment and claim management, like they do in the UK and Europe. So that management structure will have to be put in, and we will have to structure that in a manner that the club, the insurance company merely issues the policy but leaves the running of the day-to-day operations, because this is a day and night operation. Insurance companies in India, which is a Saturday, Sunday off, it won't work like that. So if a vessel requires there's a contact damage in port, and you suddenly require an indemnity or a letter of indemnity from, this has to be done at midnight and the same day. The master is waiting, he has to sail out next day morning. So it won't work if a public sector insurance company says, I'll open on Monday and decide after a board meeting. So that management structure is very important. And once that is placed, I also feel that will be good for the country, because it will mean that the entire P&I culture will then be replicated in this country. In the sense, we'll have our own law firms who are well versed in maritime law, but then more active. We'll have our own surveyors, we'll have our own loss minimization people, we'll have our claim settling agents, and most of all, important of all, we'll have an ecosystem which can even then extend to salvaging. So salvage companies are non-existent in the country. We always are happy to support the European salvage companies, and maybe this leads to something more dynamic and fruitful. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, Captain Kapil Dev. Captain Kapil Dev has to actually leave urgently. He is participating in a race, not a horse race, sailing race. He is an avid horse rider anyway, that's why I said that. So may I request Mr. Deepak Shetty to hand over a plaque to him as a token of appreciation?
Sorry, I believe there's a race in the afternoon. The sailboats are all ready and it's a cross-up on behalf of a race, so I have to leave. So thank you so much.
So you have a personal interest in setting up this BNI club?
Not really.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Captain Naik introduced the Nautical Institute and the various courses the Nautical Institute conducts. The Nautical Institute also has a wide array of publications, and they are very smart publications if you have seen them. I have not read all of them, but I have read some of them. And one of them is a book called The History of the Nautical Institute. I don't know how many of you have read it, but do read it if you get a chance, because it tells you the birth pangs of an organization, of what trouble they had, what did they have to fight to establish it themselves, etc. And in that book, I came across a definition which I didn't find anywhere else. The definition is that of a professional. Who is a professional? A professional is a person who practices a profession. And what is a profession? A profession is one which needs some form of training, some form of certification, some needs some government sanction or approval method, has to be useful to the society. That is the final outcome. And amongst us today, we have Dr. Surendra Kumar, who is a fellow of the Nautical Institute, and he is known locally as the DP Guru. I don't think there is any place on this planet where he hasn't gone to teach where DP vessels operate. Am I right, Dr. Kumar? I think whenever we speak to him, either he is in Nigeria, or he is in Indonesia, or he is in Malaysia, or somewhere else. So, can we have Dr. Kumar make his presentation, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Steve, for introducing me. Chief guest, honorable literati of the maritime industry, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for making me speak about a topic close to my heart here in front of you, this August gathering. I'm going to talk about dynamic positioning, which is a subject no longer new to the maritime industry in any part of the world. Just to start the event, or I'll start my lecture with a survey. May I request all of you to raise hand those who know about dynamic positioning? Wow, that's wonderful. And how many of you are qualified DP operator? Okay, great. So 4 of them. And how many qualified DP engineers or DP VM? Not yet. Okay, that's a matter of concern. I'm going to talk about the steps taken by the Nautical Institute, the courses, what it conducts, and what it is all about, how long is the course. So it's a bit of a dry subject for you unless you are into it, but I will be attempting to make you aware in the next 10 minutes, and I will go by the time restrictions as well has been advised by the chair. Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Coming very quickly on to what is dynamic positioning. Well, I wish I could deliver a lecture about this for a few hours and issue you a certificate at the end of the time, but that's not working out here. So you'll have to be satisfied only what few basic things I share with you right here. So I have these 4 things in my mind about what is dynamic positioning, when it all started, where it started, and how. How do we make a dynamic positioning system work? Any guesses when it must have started? How long? 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, or more?
1963.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was 1961. The first DP vessel was up and working, of course, for drilling. And the gentleman who was associated with this belonged to MTS, Marine Technology Society, US. His name was Howard Shetto. Howard died a few years back at the age of 94. Lots of companies were associated with this process, and this was all in US. Howard Chateau, Honeywell, and there were few companies, those who are into drilling. They were keen into this because they wanted to keep a ship in position without applying the conventional methods, either a tug or anchor or mooring line, which was not working. And if it was working, in case of an emergency, this was making another emergency. So to avoid all those things, the DP was born. So that is about when and where. I have answered in just a few sentences. What is dynamic positioning? That is keeping the vessel in position with the help of a system. So it's nothing more than an automation. And if you talk of automation, we started in 1961, and you look at the automation today, is totally different. To make this applicable to all the ships around the world on dynamic positioning, lots of changes have been made by the IMO guidelines. And that's what I will include into how. So this was done in, so the first DP vessel was working in 1961. The guidance came in from IMO late into 1994. IMO MSc letter 645 dated 6 June 1994 was the first such attempt to standardize this automation process of DP. Before that, if the DP vessel was available in Houston and the owner is living in UK, there's a vessel is there, you hire or don't hire, that's the vessel. There was no standardization. A similar kind of vessel which was doing a similar kind of drilling job was available in Singapore, so that was work. So 1994 was the first step. Between 1994 and 2017, there have been lots of changes into the technology associated with this subject, associated with this field. Again, there was a guideline. Again, there was an IMO MSc letter released in July, applicable from July, it was still June, but it was applicable from 1st of July to all the vessels which were constructed from 1st July 2017 onwards. Now what happens to the latest guideline about the operation? So they made an arrangement that section 4 of this new guidance coming from IMO 1580, IMO MSc 1580, they said section 4 will be applicable to all the vessels around the world, whatever they are doing, wherever they are doing. So that is what the harmonization of the old to new vessels, and especially harmonizing the operation part of it. So that's about a basic thing about how, where, and how, when. Application areas, when we talk of this, first thing comes to our mind is drilling. It all started with that. Can anyone, those who are DP operators, not permitted to answer this, anyone other than those, can you name the first DP vessel name? Anyone? Those who are reading the books. It was from a prominent company who was still into drilling. It was Shell's Eureka. You heard the name? Never mind. There was another vessel which followed quickly was CUS-1, C-U-S-S. This was a barge converted to a DP vessel, and CUS-1 became the more specifically safe vessel, and that was one. So CUS-1 actually represents the 4 oil majors: Continental, Union, Shell, and Superior Oil. So these prominent 4 companies, they have been associated with this DP system since beginning, and they still do that in a different way. While we're talking about other, we started with the drilling. While drilling, and you need some spares, supply vessels were converted to DP vessels. You needed certain things to be done underwater. Diving went into that. You needed, now the emphasis is coming to the renewables, and more vessels which are being utilized to install wind energy installations at sea. So the field has really grown and is still growing. And those of you who have been on a cruise of late, you must have realized that even the cruise liners are on DP. Anyone boarded Queen Mary 2 or Elizabeth 2? No? If you go there, you will see they are working on DP. It's a DP class 2 vessel, and more vessels are coming into that category. So when I say about the upcoming areas, renewables are the upcoming areas where the use of dynamic positioning will be much in demand in future. Quickly getting you to the type of training and the training what the Nautical issued. All these trainings are probably not carried out by the Nautical Institute, but it's my endeavor to put forward to you that what kind of DP training can be. These are all I'm talking about DP training. Of course, it's applicable to any maritime training as well. We talk of shore-based training, on-board training, and I'm not going to define that. But here you see on-board training as the operations permit. If the operations don't permit, especially for operations like diving and drilling, is not done. To do so, there are, I will not call them authorities, but there are associations like IMCA, International Marine Contractors Association, who are into big time into this part of the world. And for the American part of it, this is again MTS, the Marine Technology Society, which has a DP session, and it's a pleasure to share that it is headed by an Indian master who calls himself as an engineer. Many of you might know him. And there is, of course, a bit of tussle between both of them that which one will be. So all the documentation from MTS is made free, whereas any document we want to buy from IMCA, you have to pay for it. So that's IMCA 007 I'm talking about, is for assessors guidance and training. It's a wonderful document even for any other kind of training and assessment. We might like to use it. Then it's about onboard simulator training and exercises, and in which I would like to say we have been part of it at some time, and this touch drill theory works out very well. That only touch, don't activate, and try to pass on the information at a time when you are free to do so. That's working very well. Then there are other very simple, and very quickly I'll go through these onboard training, supervised operations, which becomes a very important and effective part of training. I've not been involved, but I've done this for the shipping companies at shore. Seminars like this can be a wonderful place. Vessel owners and operator training scheme. Operators training scheme actually has got two, which I've just been focusing only on to the Nautical issue and not onto the DNV scheme. Refresher courses and computer, web-based. We have my old colleague and a friend from ARI, and they have done wonderful job in putting everything onto the web, and anyone can access and of course do the training. So that's the kind of thing. Vessel owners are advised to provide training for their senior DP personnel to enable them to deliver effective training and mentoring. This is again industry need. The references for this training, as I mentioned a few of them, that was IMO MSc 645, IMO MSc 1580, which has been referenced in the IMO Circular 738, which was revised after the release of the latest guideline. And the industry which looks up to is this document, which is called Code of Practice now. When it is Code of Practice, the level is raised from the reference material to the Code of Practice. This is going to command and demand literally the training of dynamic positioning all over the world, literally. So that is what we follow when you talk of the top one here, which I would not be able to cover into details, but I'm one of the contributors for this. Nautical Institute makes guidelines and we review them every year. We are in the process of reviewing the Nautical Institute guidelines for training, which will be followed worldwide, and that will be released somewhere in the month of Jan or maybe early Feb. And every year it is, considering the industry requirement, a group sits onto it and they revise this and release usually in the month of January every year. These are the two schemes, and very quickly I take you to the NI scheme. NI scheme starts with a DP basic, nowadays it is called induction course. It's a 28-hour course. Some countries and some companies, some training centers prefer doing it in 4 days, but wherever I've been involved, we do it for 5 days. It's followed by an online exam, and that online exam is also done in a very professional way. Worldwide experts have been put into, and they make a bank of questions, and the students are subjected to that test. Then it's followed by phase B. The phase B includes about 60 days of sea time, which has to be completed before the student comes back for his simulator course, his or her simulator course. And then that's phase C. Once the sea time is completed, then they have to attend a course which is 5-day course or 28 hours course. And followed by that is phase D. In the phase D, they have to complete again 60 days. Now there is a hitch here, or rather there is a facility provided for those who cannot go on board ship at one time and complete 60 days. So they can do a sea time reduction course for 1 week, and that gives them an advantage of about 30 days. So, but last 30 days, they have to be on board ship so that the master and the senior DPO can verify their capability and give them a certificate of approval that they can put it to the Nautical Issued. Nautical Issued will go through all the details and check the records. If everything is okay, a certificate is issued. And if the last 30 days were on board a DP class 2 or a DP class 3 vessel, the certificate is unlimited, otherwise it is limited. I hope I'm not exceeding the time, so I can. So this is what is the part of the training. There are lots of issues coming up for the assessment, and that's also becoming a part of. So there is a separate course. When you talk of assessment, can be done on board, can be done ashore, but then you have to agree to certain conditions and certain rules. So the Nautical Issue has come out a few years back. We started working on to something called CPD, Continuous Professional Development, and that's the need of the hour. The CPD system is designed by, as of now, there are 6 of them approved by the Nautical Issue, and I happen to be one of the contributors and one of the assessor also for that. That is put to a group, and the group will look into the details, and then that CPD system is approved or not approved or submitted for some betterment. Once that is done, then after getting the certificate, the DPO, they will have to undergo SCPD every year. The certificate is valid for 5 years. That means minimum 4 CPDs the qualified DPOs or the qualified DP engineers will have to complete. On the 5th year, they can go and apply for the renewal of the certificate, and if everything is met, 150 days of the sea time plus this CPD, one can do it. But then Nautical Issue thought everyone may not be able to do this, and they went in for a second option. And the second option here is to attend a course in a training center, and that course was called revalidation course. But then there were certain companies who were not willing to accept this as a revalidation course, and this was renamed as competency assessment course, and that's being done. Literally speaking, because I've been involved in designing the same, the both courses are same, verbatim. But this, to satisfy the industry needs and satisfy certain companies, this has been done. So this was all about the training and assessment of the dynamic positioning. The time won't permit me to take you through the process of another scheme provider, that is DNB. And with that, I stop my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Dr. Kumar, thank you very much. Kindly be seated. There could be questions at the end which we will take. Thank you very much, Dr. Kumar, for putting this all in a nice capsule. A vast subject in 10 minutes, not easy. It's obvious you know the subject. That's why you could do it. The next speaker we have is Captain Bhatia and Captain Debu. So we are going to get 2 for the price of 1. Both of them, is Captain Debu?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm after 40.
Okay, fine. Ek ke saath ek. We like that. Both of them, Captain Debu heads the Anglo-Eastern Training Center in Mumbai and has vast experience in maritime education and training. He has represented India as part of the delegation to IMO for 1 decade, 2 decades, nearly 2 decades. Okay, 2 decades. So whatever you don't like in the courses, he is the man. We have and Captain Bhatia, extra master, LBS College, Anglo-Eastern, 20 years in training at least.
31.
31. Oh dear. And you are still standing and smiling. I like it. They are going to talk about mentoring and leadership, etc. I think we should hear them.
Good afternoon, everybody. I was expecting a little more of the ladies, considering the gender diversity, but well, to some extent we have honored it, isn't it? Right, as you can see here, Nautical Institute's logo there, which says empowering the leaders of tomorrow. Now, when we say empowering the leaders of tomorrow, sometime back we heard to make India a great maritime nation, we do need to talk about, and that India should develop into a good shipbuilding nation. And a couple of other things were there, including training was one of them, port development was one of them. Now, in all the fields, wherever we need to develop, training is an important aspect. And to put the training into practice is when we need leaders and mentors. So we do need leaders and we do need mentors. Now, what you are seeing here on the slide is taken from the Nautical Institute. This is how they introduced the course on mentoring. And it says 70% of professional knowledge comes from various forms of informal learning. That's important. That's what I'm looking at. Mentoring would give you more than 70% of informal learning. So I'm looking at that aspect of mentoring from a mentor and a mentee, both the perspectives. If you look at this, it says what is mentoring? Essentially helping people to develop more effectively, and a relationship designed to help people build confidence and help the learners increasing initiative for their own development. So obviously if you have to develop, it is your initiative because it is your career. You have to decide what exactly you want. So a mentee plays a more important role in terms of learning. A mentor plays a role in terms of guiding. Now the next one here is learn what mentoring is all about. It's basically a partnership between a mentor and a mentee, sharing experience, expertise, etc. to enhance the career of the mentee, and the mentor also gains. So what does it take to be a mentor, as it says here, and what does a mentor get out of it? That is important. What are the mentee's responsibilities and what the mentee gets out of it? So the mentor, the first thing he gets is, he must have a desire, He should be willing, he should have a desire to hand over the baton. That means he should have a desire to hand over to the mentee whatever he has learnt all along in his career and how he would like the mentee to go ahead. That is the first thing. That is where the desire comes in. The next is the time. And that of course is there. The mentor must be willing to spend a lot of time with the mentee. Unless he does that, the mentee will not be able to learn too many things. Reality check. Again, a mentor should be able to give the mentee a reality check. That means what he is doing and what are his capabilities, probably also giving him direction and telling him, okay, you could look in this direction. That's more important. And then individual career development, what the mentee wants and how the mentor can tell him what are the other fields where he can diversify depending on the capabilities of the mentee. So the mentor's role is pretty much important for the mentee. The mentor should be, as I said, pass on success, hand over the baton, tell him, okay, now you need to take it forward. Practice interpersonal and management skills. Now, interpersonal management is pretty important because the mentor should be able to interact with the mentee, manage how the mentee progresses, that's where the management skills will come in, and how he is going to interact with the mentee. Become a role model. Once the mentor becomes a role model, he will get more and more mentees. That's what is important. And let me clarify here, it is not me who tells somebody that, okay, I will be your mentor, but it is the mentee who decides that I would want to go to this mentor. So your role model becomes very, very important, and that is how the mentees will look at you in terms of a mentor. Expanding their horizons. Now, a mentor also gets to learn in this process. And when he is learning in this process, his horizons are also expanding. So it's not just that the mentee's horizon is expanding, but the mentor's horizon is also expanding. And mentor actually gains more than the mentee. That's my personal opinion. You may not agree to it, but I feel a mentor will gain more rather than the mentee, because once the mentor starts listening, his horizons broaden, and then he gains more. He's looking at more and more things rather than the mentee. What are the mentee's responsibilities? Willing to learn. Now, obviously, if he's not willing to learn and not willing to go further, then the mentor cannot really do much. Ability to accept feedback. Here I would say the feedback should be constructive, which will help him to develop further. Willing to stretch. Now when the mentor is saying something or guiding you in a particular way, as a mentee, are you willing to put in those extra hours to try and achieve what you want to achieve? That is important. So the mentee should be willing to stretch, and he should be able to identify goals. Now here, when the mentee is identifying his goals along with the mentor, then the mentor must ensure that the goals are, as we say, SMART goals. That means specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So the goal setting which is done between the mentee and the mentor, but for the mentee, should follow this principle of SMART goals. I'm running through a little bit because I know we are on time constraint. What does mentee get out of it again? He gets a listening ear. This is what the mentor must be very good at. He should be a very active listener. And I'm not talking of hearing. Hearing and listening, I'm sure you all know, are two different things. Listening is hearing with the intention of using that information. Right? So mentee gets a good listening ear. That is very important. He also gets valuable direction, in which direction he can go, what he needs to do. The gaps are being filled. That means wherever the mentee feels there are gaps, those gaps are filled in by the mentor. So the mentee can have his path planned out pretty nicely. Door opened, in the sense, normally the mentor could show him much more what the mentee would achieve and which other direction he can go, plus even guide him to the right people. Let's say, for example, if I have somebody who is interested in DP, then I could guide him to Kumar sir here for the DP there, where I am in touch with him, but the mentee may not be in touch with him. Similarly, if there is somebody interested in arbitration, Captain Mohan Naik would be very willing to help him, and again I will be able to guide him there. So that is important. That's what I mean by opening the doors. And he gets a different perspective, because what you see is your perspective. What the other person sees is somebody else's perspective. And sometimes the other perspective, especially that of a mentor, is always better than that of a mentee himself. Now, excuse me. Now there are different types of mentoring, but I won't go into all. I'll just take the first one, the natural mentoring, because we don't have time for all of them. Natural mentoring, as it says here, it occurs all the time. It happens between like-minded people. So, for example, a seafarer would be mentoring a seafarer, and in that sense, you feel a connect with that person. You feel that yes, he is one of me. Probably he sailed on ships with me, or he sailed on similar types of ships where I have sailed, so that is the connect. Or the same company where I have worked. Shipping itself is a big fraternity, and the moment we see another shippy, we always feel a connect. So that is very important. That is where natural mentoring comes in. And research shows that this type of mentoring most often occurs between people who have a lot in common, as I was telling you. So now the other aspect is, of course, the skills used by the mentor. Listening, as I just told you, he should also be good at counseling. You will also, as a mentor, you will also have to counsel your mentee. So that is very important. He has to be a good coach. Of course, a coach, not a boss. right? There's a difference between boss and coach. And of course, you should be good in career advising and goal setting, as I did cover. So just to sum up the whole thing, and I hope I'm not exceeding the time, but just to sum up the whole thing, identifying goals, fill in the gaps, expand available options, explore referral resources, build self-esteem. That's another important aspect. I have not touched upon it, but I'm sure some other time it can be touched upon, or if anybody needs some more clarification, you can always get in touch with me. And of course, evaluate each meeting. That is again important. At each stage, at each time, you should be able to evaluate things. Alright, I'll conclude here because my Captain Devu, my boss, I'm also working for Anglo Eastern. He will like to say something on the next few slides. So please.
Thank you, Captain Bhatia, and thanks to the Nautical Institute, ICS, and WMU Alumni to invite me over to be able to speak at this August gathering. I can see many of my seniors, my guides, my mentors sitting in the audience, so I'm so happy to be here to speak on this. So I think the great topic and great theme chosen, making India a great maritime nation. So I think I just pick up from the line Mr. Aniruddha Chaki mentioned that India is great in two areas. One is ship recycling, where we are number 2, and one is with seafarers being produced for the world's fleet, where also we are second. Yeah? So I think somewhere we need to get to the number 1 spot, and that's what I will be wanting to talk about. So just a brief snapshot which I want to portray out here is the near future. I'm not going to the Amritkal vision of 2047. I want to see the Maritime India Vision 2030. So I will speak of the near future part, where what is the areas where we can grow our seafarers and make them number 1. We are now, I think, we stand at 290,000 Indian seafarers for the world fleet, and we should go up to 400,000. So that should be our target very quickly. And I think this target is achievable because right now shipping is undergoing a transformation. It's undergoing, quite a huge transformation in terms of opportunities that would be available to the Indian seafarers. And I think we are rightly poised to take over this prime position. So starting with all these 9 areas which I have shown, I'll touch upon them briefly only. One is of course decarbonization. You all are fully aware of it. But in terms of how we can increase our seafarer base, so we have to look at the next levels of alternate fuels that are coming in the picture. For example, ammonia, methanol, hydrogen, etc. And how do we train our seafarers to go forward and take up this particular type of ships. So right now, LNG fuel vessels, LPG fuel vessels are quite a bit there in the market, and Indians are growing in that field. But yes, that's our next opportunity to take it forward. Even liquid carbon dioxide vessels, or so many different type of vessels which are going to come about. Coming to the next one, energy efficiency. It's another area where the MARPOL Annex 6 and various other factors are driving it, EU MRV, EU ETS, etc. And India would be also coming out with a Indian ETS type of system very shortly for the carbon trading part of it. So how do we make our shipboard operation more efficient? Because that's the key area that all ship owners are looking at. Mind you, from our Anglo Eastern point of view, most ship owners are asking, what is your strategy towards energy efficiency? What are you trying to do? And that's the aspect where we can also train our seafarers well, put good strategies in place, and certainly enough, we would be able to take over many of the foreign flag ships that are waiting to be taken over by Indian seafarers. Next coming in is the propulsion systems. In fact, we have single screw, twin screw, all those were there earlier also. But now azipods are taking over much. And Captain Mohan Naik is sitting here with his Dyna gas vessels going into the Arctic areas with azipod LNG vessels. And I think this is an aspect that we need to be able to focus on, rather than sending people abroad to get trained on this. Why not can we do this training in India? So not only that is the azipod propulsion system, but you are having the wind turbines, which are propulsion assist basically. That's an aspect also which many ships are getting fitted. So what I'm trying to put forward is where all are the opportunities for maritime training institutions that can come up with a good high-level quality training so that our Indian seafarers benefit from that. And certainly as they show efficiency in their operation, they will be preferred over other nationalities. So coming to navigation systems, many, I wouldn't say many, but a few of our ships are already AI and AR enabled with its navigation systems that is coming in. And this picture is of course a picture I've borrowed from the K-Line's advertisement, but yet you will see them on your portal screen itself, on the screen itself, all these information that will pop up. And these are information that pops up because there are cameras fitted all over the ship in front, which are not only checking which is the type of ship there in the horizon, which is the type of buoy, beacon, all these aspects are picked up there by that. Even the cameras do the range distance definition, and you are able to get more information than just what your radar or your ECDIS will provide. And right there in front of you as you are watching outside. So this is an aspect that is coming in. Many research is going on that, and yes, it could be a precursor to, let's say, the mass vessels which will come in the future, and semi-automated compared to the fully autonomous ships. Next coming in is the offshore sector. I think Dr. Surinder Kumar already mentioned about these CSOV vessels, commissioning, servicing offshore vessels now. These are vessels which will service the wind farms that are coming all over the world now. Yesterday I read that even Sri Lanka is going to set up a wind farm outside its coast, and maybe very soon India would also follow. And there is a huge dearth right now of personnel who are able to operate such ships also. Of course, they are all DP vessels, DP3 vessels, but over and above that, they have more expertise because that service gangway which you see going to the wind post is dynamically stabilized, and there is it's an advancement that we need to take care of. So right now, Anglo Eastern is taking over some of these ships, and we need to gear up to train them. So I will of course be looking at the expertise from Dr. Surinder here. Next one is the cruise shipping. Cruise ships are growing field, and Captain Basina is sitting there with a huge fleet of cruise ships there. But yes, Anglo Eastern is a niche sector here, which is in expedition cruising, where the ships go to the Arctic and the Antarctic for touring. And there, of course, expertise may not be sufficient. Indians are not so much on cruise ships, and I think an area where really we can build our expertise and go and work on those ships. Next is digitalization. Most shipping companies are going in the direction of being paperless. So you would have a complete sort of a system, what we call as a data management center on board a ship itself, where you have a full server, client stations everywhere, chief officers, cabin, masters, chief engineers, everywhere there are land connected stations there. And you are able to now be online with the office 24 hours with all the data. So whatever the vessel manager on the shore is being able to see, the ship staff is also able to see that in real time. And that's where, again, the technology which is advancing, people need to be able to service and make sure that these data systems are running. I will take human factors last because I feel that's the most important part. But quality, health and safety and environment. This also aspect which is growing, one more minute if I can just sum up on that. It's an area which is growing, and certainly we need professionals in this field also. People who have sailed on the ship are one of the best qualified and suitable to step ashore and be able to lead these departments. And human factors, of course, everything ties up with the human factor. So as the number of crew on the ship reduce, and it will reduce over a period of time, we need to have better team management, better leadership qualities, mental health, well-being, all these are coming to the forefront, and we should be able to make sure that we are not only training these people in this, but also psychological safety is being looked at very closely. So these are the areas. As I see, time is short, so I will just jump to my last slide here. India needs to be prominent in IMO. Mr. Chaki mentioned that also, and I think we are doing quite a lot towards that area. Anglo-Eastern has been well involved in writing model courses for Indian administration to put it up to IMO for validation, and so far contribution has been towards almost 25 model courses. We are also thinking at one more model course, which is the ship handling course, that maybe India will need to put it forward to IMO next, so that we will be able to write that model course also. So I need Indians to come forward to contribute, because this is a field which requires a lot of dedication, a lot of effort, reading up a lot, and also then to produce something which the whole world will use and will appreciate what we are doing. So thank you from that point of view. I won't take more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Depu. Regrettably, we don't have any time for questions. I'm sorry, demurrage remains demurrage.
Can we just have all the speakers back on the stage, and Captain Halbe, can we have Captain Mohan Naik, Captain Deshpande, Captain Chinna and Captain Kamaksh Kamath just to hand over the plaques, please. Captain Anil Bhatia. Dr. Surinder Kumar. Captain Debu. And Captain Halbe. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before we start the last session, last chance to get the lucky draw. So whoever has not done, please do it. The last chance. Yeah, please give it a shot. 10,000 rupees and 5,000 rupees. Okay. So the last session, and yes, there's a demurrage now of almost 30 minutes, but please bear with us. The last association to come is the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. So the first two associations, what they spoke of how to spend money, and now the last association will come and say how to earn money. Is that what I'm trying to say? So I would like Captain Ashok Gogia, the chairman of Mumbai branch, ICS, to please come and say a few words.
Yes, it's working. Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, thank you, Anupam, for that introductory speech. Your Excellencies, sir, thank you very much for staying back. Yes, distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, friends, and colleagues. It's an immense privilege to stand at this esteemed gathering. Your presence is a testament of unwavering commitment to making India a great maritime nation. It's an honor to be among stalwarts like you all. I have been connected to shipping for over 5 decades, and I have had several roles ranging from chartering, ship agency, manning, consulting, and now training. I have represented ICS at annual meetings, also known from UK, known as Controlling Council meetings, throughout the world at various centers. I took over chairmanship of the institute in June last year, and have been focused on driving greater awareness, effective strategies, planning on marketing and promotional initiatives. For instance, we have made a presence in various shipping industry forums such as Marix Global Shipping, Naval Conference, Maritime SHIO, SCMA, Marix Bulk Carriers, Blue Water Event, and then Shipping Tribune. But our greatest achievement and accomplishment was the felicitation of our chairman, managing director of SCI, Captain D. Tyagi. He's not here, but I wish he was here. All the same, he has been felicitated as a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, London. Truly a feather in our cap. Even though he's not here, I think we should give him a big hand. Thank you very much. What does ICS do? ICS provides an international professional qualification which not only enhances the basic shipping knowledge, but also helps in networking with other professionals holding similar qualifications. We are very progress global institute and close to 30 branches worldwide and over 4,000 active members. Currently, the head office and all the branches have been encouraged into digitalization. Membership to ICS is a professional qualifying exam, which is held twice a year. At MTI, it is in May as well as in November. And I'm very proud to say that currently we have Captain Sharad Kishore amongst us. Captain Sharad Kishore, please hand up and wave. He is a sailing master. He's a sailing master, and I just met him, and he has done his MICS. So it is an excellent model for anybody who's sailing to do the ICS qualification, for the simple reason that you get 5 years. You get 5 years to complete the thing. Now, collectively we have created a community and forum for collaboration and networking and partnership. Furthermore, in the last few years, we have tied a partnership with Amit University, Gujarat University, Indian Maritime University, and Narottam Morarji. This has enabled us that we engage with the youth of today that represent the vibrant, dynamic, diverse generation. Today, it is very, very encouraging because all my committee members who could come here are already here. Captain Mohan Naik, Jyoti, Saxena, where is Nimish? Nimish and Jane Saab is here. So it is very, very encouraging and very supportive, So having said that, what I would say is that please spread the word around. It is an achievable qualification with returns on investment. you can, I mean, they are stalwarts in the industry over here. You can talk to them. It pays. There might be a delay, but once you have that qualification, the opportunities are immense. They are immense. You can't go wrong. Having completed that, let me tell you, the motto of ICS is the same as Baltic Exchange, which is our word, our bond. Now, lastly, I would like to welcome all of you all. Thank you all, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I didn't have to ring the bell for you.
I didn't have anything else.
So, you all are lucky that I am the moderator for the last session. So, I have this with me. So, the speakers for ICS, please be beware. So, my first speaker from ICS is Shri Hariharan Subaya. Please, sir. And he's MICS as well. And he is also from SCI, and he handles the insurance department as we speak. Since the time is short, sir, we are going to cut your introduction also short. And as somebody just mentioned, once on demurrage, always on demurrage.
Very good afternoon to you all, respected chief guests, dignitaries. In fact, I just wanted to say, when I saw Shetty sir, I was like a kid in a candy store. I've heard his speeches in the auditorium of SCI, and I was a little nervous to make this speech here. Great to have you here, sir. Over the past 2 hours, 2.5 hours, we had luminaries of the industry talk. I will try to put together everything, like Captain Anupam said, maybe the commercial aspect of shipping, because ICS deals with the commercial aspect, the training aspect in a hidden manner, but the commercial aspect of shipping. I'd like to focus on the topic, that is potential of India in the global maritime sector, the potential, the steps being taken, and probably a few developments that we need to look forward to. So this is a snapshot of my presentation. Yes, I am from SCI. Almost half of the crowd here is from SCI. I'm probably one of the only companies where even the alumni, after the institution where we belong to, the Shipping Corporation of India is the only organization which everybody says I am an ex-SCI in Indian Maritime at least. So yes, I am from SCI. I'll introduce you to SCI, the Indian maritime history, India being an economic powerhouse. Somebody mentioned the word powerhouse earlier. Indian shipping, a snapshot. Atmanirbharta in Indian shipping. Indian Maritime Amrit Kal vision, heard it many times, but we'll try to keep it short. And developments to look out for. So yes, our vision, SCI's vision is to emerge as a team of inspired performers in the field of maritime logistics, offshore, port and terminal management, serving Indian and global trade. Now, India being the numero uno shipping company is very important for Indian shipping. We started out as a marginal liner company with 19 vessels in 1961 with the merger of 2 shipping companies, Eastern and Western Shipping Corporation, and we have grown from strength to strength. Now, we account for about 25% of the deadweight or tonnage of India. We have a diversified fleet, and as on date, we have 57 vessels which we own, accounting to 5.24 million DWT and about 2.89 million GT. We also manage about 40 vessels for government agencies as on date. This is our broad organization structure. We are run by a board of 16 members, 8 independent directors and 8 government directors, 6 functional directors and 2 from the government, as government is the majority shareholder in our company. This is the milestone. SCI's milestone also corresponds to the milestone of Indian shipping. Our incorporation, we taking over Jayanti Shipping, we merging with Mughal Lines, then we bringing in the largest, we acquiring the largest vessel in Indian registry, to SCI becoming the 6 million DWT company, And of late, we also started a subsidiary in the gift city, SCA Bharat, about which one of our speakers will be talking about in the coming slides. So going to the Indian maritime history and influence. Now this photo resonates for multiple reasons. Indian maritime history goes long back. In fact, somebody had to tell us that this archaeological evidence had to bring into the fact that a dry dock at Lothal dated back to 2400 BC, that's about 4500 to 5000 years back. Excavations at Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, which are part of the Indus Valley civilization, also point out to that fact. There are references to maritime and Indian shipping in the Rig Veda as well. Most interestingly, one of the strategists of historical times, modern times, that is Kautilya or Chanakya, has also mentioned about a department of waterways, how to run it, and about an admiralty division which was part of the war office, how to run it, how to organize ocean pathways and riverine ports as well. Then we are not strangers to the influence of the Cholas as well. Cholas took Hinduism, Buddhism, it took care of the trade, their influence went as far as today's Java Sumatra Island, which is part of the Indonesia. There is a stamp which is dedicated to the Rajendra Chola one. There was a recent movie in Tamil which was Ponniyin Selvan, which was about Rajaraja Chola. And again, we being in Mumbai, we cannot forget the contribution of Chhatrapati Shivaji and of course the subsequent Naval Admiral Kanoji Angre. And something that we need to be proud of is we are the only country, on whose an ocean is named after. So, it's there. So now, how do you define India as a powerhouse? Now let me put to you some numbers. Some numbers known, some numbers not known. India is definitely the 5th largest economy, about 3.5 trillion GDP. But we also aim to become the 3rd largest GDP by 2030-31, and we want to become the biggest economy in the world by 2047 or 2049 as per some estimates. The projected GDP growth of India is 7%. By IMF and by OECD, it's about 6.8%. Let me put some perspective to this. In fact, when we were talking during the tea break, everybody must be aware of a rule of 72. Rule of 72 defines how fast you can double your money or how do you double in a compounding interest. So if the world economy grows at 3% in roughly 24 years, that is by Amrit Kal, we will just double this. The world economy will be doubling. But if India grows at 7%, we will be 5 times the size. And if we grow at 8%, we will be 6.5 times. So that's the power of growing at a consistent rate. Although today the gap may be 3-4%, but over a longer horizon, we will have a much more influential size in terms of the economy. So Maritime Amrit Kal is achievable and not a fancy number. The forex reserves, India's forex reserve is one of the highest or top 10 nations in the world. We have also impressive gold reserves in the world. Of course, 24% of the gold is held by Indian public, but still we have a substantial reserve. So we are not going anywhere soon. In fact, one of the speakers had said low-hanging fruit about training. Now, I have a different opinion on the demographic dividend. Now, again, another speaker had mentioned about, I think my CMD mentioned about the Korean country not having enough workforce, and there is a report that in 100 years South Korea may not exist because of their demographic status. So India has a young force, most populous nation, young force, and its Earth's population is likely to peak at around 9 billion in 2050, and our population is expected to be at 1.6 billion. So we have a great advantage, which is the mind advantage. So let's use it. It's not going to be a disadvantage. We always, when I was in school, we used to say population explosion is a bad thing, but I think today we are at a number which we should be proud of and will continue to be proud of. India is also part of strategic and influential non-military trade alliances. We are part of quasi-military alliances, but we are part of non-military alliances like BRICS, Quad, I2, U2. And of late, we've also been part of the there's India, Middle East, Europe Corridor, INSTC, and the BIMSTEC Coastal Alliance. So these are all a showcase of our economic powers. Now coming to Indian shipping, we have a vast coastline. Everybody knows 7,516 kilometers. We are adorned with about 12 major ports and 200 non-major ports. We have 14,500 kilometers of navigable waterways, declared 111 national waterways. The Indian maritime accounts for about 95% of the trade movement by volume and 70% by value. So as per latest numbers, Indian port handled about 820 million tons of cargo in the last fiscal. So again, some said 18th largest maritime nation, some said 20th largest nation, but we are somewhere in that 16 to 20 largest maritime nation in the world, with the latest figure indicating 1,530 vessels, accounting for 13.7 million GDP. Again, the low hanging fruit, we are the second or third largest recycling destination, and we are also one of the top 5 suppliers of manpower in terms of officer as well as crew. So this government, or referring to the government of India, has taken measures which are moving towards the path of Atmanirbharta or Atmanirbhar Bharat in shipping. The shipbuilding finance policy, which provides an assistance up to 20% for shipyards manufacturing. In fact, there is a caveat that every 3 years the percentage of assistance will be reduced by 3%. So this is a move to motivate Indian construction shipbuilding industry in India. And there is a subsidy initiated by the government of India towards import of government cargo for government tenders and for CPSC tenders. This has been well used by the Indian shipping and insights witness to that. And the ROFR which is provided to Indian shipping. These are the maybe protectionist measures, but a step in right direction towards Atmanirbharta in Indian shipping. Because this is a summary of what all the speakers have said, and it's a 500-page document. So there are about 11 key themes which is there in the Maritime Amrit Kaal, and over 300 initiatives have been defined. And for every initiative there are meetings, there are teams which go ahead and discuss. Basically, Maritime Amrit Kaal has furthered its theme or the goals of the Maritime India vision, and also tries to integrate the objectives of Prime Minister's Gati Shakti National Master Plan. So I'll focus on a few of them, that is enhancing India's tonnage. Now presently we are ranked 16th in the world. We would like to go ahead up to the 5th. So by 2047. And Government of India is also planning policy interventions for promoting the Indian flag. Recently we've also come to know of adding about 1,000 ships to the Indian fleet so that the dependence on foreign flag can be reduced. To become a global player in shipbuilding, recycling and repair. So there is again, some of the speakers have already mentioned of shipbuilding and ship repair clusters being planned. In fact, a word in support of the ship recycling yards would be that these yards, about 160 plus in number, in the Bhavnagar Alumni area, have already started being compliant. About 130 plus are fully compliant with the Hong Kong Convention, which is going to be implemented in force by 2026. So that's a step in the right direction. We also need to be getting the service money when the vessel is scrapped. Quadrupling port capacity, that is developing world-class next-generation ports. We intend to quadruple port capacity to 10 billion tons by 2047. Again, the Harit Sagar initiatives are very well known. A lot of initiatives have been taken in the direction, green hydrogen, green tugs. All these are in the public domain, and these are steps in the right direction towards even our SDG goals. This is again developing world-class education, research and training facilities. One of the domains that caught my eye was in marine insurance. So that is where the creation of India P&I Club started taking root. Of course, that has been taken care by Captain Bail in his presentation, so I will not touch upon that. But I will just say the word that India P&I would provide a foothold into the specialized segment of P&I business and reduce vulnerability for Indian players. These are the developments to look out for, and possibly my last slide. These are the developments to look out for in the near term. That is the infrastructure status for shipping. this would enable Indian shipping access to financial assistance, and Indian shipping would be able to issue infrastructure bonds like your roadways, your shipyards and ports. Again, another thing is how influential is going to be the IFCA ecosystem and the GIFT City. My fellow ICS speaker would be dealing with that subject in the subsequent presentation. And then the creation of a dedicated maritime development fund, which is also meant for getting to the capital requirements of Indian shipping, as well as maybe to contribute in the concept of India PMI. And last but not the least, this is something which came straight from my heart, is India winning the bid to host the Summer Olympics in 2036. Now, Olympics is an amazing opportunity for infrastructure development. A huge amount of money goes into the development. Yes, already most people have already talked about China. So, if you heard about the index of core 8 industries, 7 of the 8 ICI, which contributes to 40% of the index of industrial production, 7 of the industries are directly concerned with shipping. They deal in shipping only, for their raw material or finished goods. So, an event like Olympics is likely to impact, flip to the entire shipping industry in India, and that is my firm belief. So, with these measures taken, of course, a trivia I wanted to give. Before the arrival of British, India's GDP accounted for 25 to 35% of the world's economy. It remained at 27 to 28% in the 16th century, and it was reduced to 2% in 1947 when we attained our independence. So, with the measures that have been taken by the government of India and with our active participation, I feel, and we at ICS feel that India is well on its track to achieve the planned target of becoming world's largest economy with a 50 billion GDP in 2047. Jai Hind, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Sorry for me being mean to just keep the phone and the timer in front of you. Apologies for that. Our next speaker, she's a fellow member of the ICS. She's a gold medalist. She has a career spanning since 1996, and she presently is the CEO of a company called Diverse Global. Meera Kumar, please come on stage. And her deck is wow, I know that.
I just wanted to say, even if you're in demurrage, you shouldn't skip the important activities. It's more dangerous. Hello everyone, and thank you so much to the 3 institutes for inviting me here to speak today. Those of you who are from my generation might have perchance read a magazine called Mad in many parts of the world. I must tell you that I took the liberty, my deck is created by AI with a little bit of help from me. And I asked AI to make an acronym with MAD, with Maritime Adopts Digitization. Often seems rather mad in the process. Let me get started. So very good afternoon. As we embark on the transformative journey envisioned in the Maritime Amrit Kaal, I'm privileged to speak about the pivotal role of digitalization in revolutionizing this industry. Digital transformation is not just a tool for improvement, it's an engine driving sustainability, efficiency, and global competitiveness in India's maritime ecosystem. This vision 2047, ladies and gentlemen, personally I resonate with. I remember when I was 5 years old, sitting at the knees of my granddad, feeling jealous, thinking that he had lived through a transformative time of the Indian civilization, having been there through India's independence. And I was whining at his knees saying, I'm not going to have anything exciting happening during my lifetime. You know, you've done it all, you've seen it all. And today I really feel that here's a nation, the largest, most populous nation in the world, actually daring to set out an actionable plan for all its citizens. I love it. The Indian maritime sector, even recently, over the last 5 years, has already seen rapid transformation. I understand that 78,000 startups in the digital realm have been approved, largely in the maritime sphere. Also, many of you would know the Indian PCS 1X and the National Logistics Portal, Marine, which is live, connected for the first time a large number of Indian stakeholders and in a very timely manner just before the lockdown of COVID-19. These two platforms are, I was blessed to be a part of, being in the JM Bakshi group that worked closely along with the Government of India in rollout. The key digital transformation initiatives that the government has laid out in this Amrit Kal poises or positions or aspires India to be positioned right at the helm. Look at the way in which it's put out. It reads more to me like a private sector, budget plan or a KPI sheet than a government's aspirational document. There's actually columns out there with the parameter, the unit, where we are and where we should be. I might be less educated than many people in this room, but I haven't seen this before. And the parameters within it then outline the opportunities that can be contained for all of us in this room in making this a reality. I'm going to give you a second to read this, or if anybody wants my presentation, I'll be happy to pass it on. I must tell you, it's a 500 and something page document, so it took me a little bit of time to pick out just those pieces that I wanted to present here. Now, what are the key transformation initiatives that this outlines on the digitization side? So it talks about more than 300 initiatives, and look at the kind of outlay set out by the Government of India as investment, and look at the number of jobs that this is expected to deliver back to the nation. Now, among the various modules sits digitization. In digitization, there are again 17 initiatives identified, and there are mechanisms or framework for how to deliver. That's another thing I liked about this. Someone said earlier in the day, it's not enough to have a document, you have to know how to execute it. So in my view, there is enough inside this to give us a framework for execution. There are bodies already inducted, there is a drive for inclusion with the private sector, and there are yardsticks set in order to track our progress. So what have they already done? They have already rolled out, as mentioned, the PCS 1X and the NLP Marine. They have already rolled out initiatives through various other bodies, including DG Shipping, Customs, and they've already delivered on impact. This much is already done as we speak today. However, what has been noticed is there's still a gross lack of adoption. There's no point having a digital initiative if nobody follows it. And this huge resistance to change is the real enemy. So it's easy to bring technology in, it's easier, it seems, to have the government backing change than it is to have all of us actually accepting and making change a part of our daily life. On my way in this morning, I was talking to a very dear friend and a client who we were offering in Davos a free upgrade to the latest technology of our new platform, completely free, and full data transfer completely free. And this gentleman tells me with real stress in his voice, Meera, you know my team, right? Nobody likes IT, yeah. So it's very difficult for me. It took me 3 years to convince somebody to use the last one. And so now, so you offer something completely free, you offer framework, you offer enhancements, you prove what is possible, you show the technology value, but change is still painful. And I think that's where role comes in for all of us, and perhaps that's why this topic was chosen, because it's not just about what the government does and what other people do, it's about what we do when we get back home. So what are the current challenges? We have a gross lack of authenticated digital data. This is not just in India, to be fair, this is globally. We have the technology to analyze data, to crunch numbers, to spit out, output. But we don't have digital data. The actual digital data is only in the last 10 odd years. Before that, everything's still in paper, buried somewhere. And with too small a set of data, every statistician knows you can land up in all sorts of wrong directions. We also have a lack of digital data standards, even today. And whatever leaps of digitization we are seeing around the world is still very, very much in silos. There's still this, we just spoke about it, lack of transparency, fear of change, lack of investment in the sector. I find, it's probably easier today to create the 30-second dating app and get huge investment than to create technology in maritime and get investment flooding in. It's strange. Fashion sells, aviation sells, relationships sell, but shipping somehow you find good companies setting up startups and not sustaining. There is also, strangely, as was mentioned earlier, manpower shortages. What is it that we wish to do? We've envisaged digitally this huge thing called ULIP, the Unified Logistics Interface Platform, and under it we've anchored all the individual digital resources that have to be created or amped up. It's quite exhaustive in its scope, in my opinion, and it's very inclusive in its approach. So it actually has laid out the various stakeholders, what is it that they are expected to contribute, what are the IT systems they will need, and by when should they have it in place if this entire grand scheme of Lego bricks is to come true. And there are three main categories of stakeholders, right? The government, the private sector, the educators who are running this program, and the financiers. So let's look first at the role of the government and the educators. I've clubbed them together. Interestingly, again for me, hopefully for some of you as well, we have already inducted India's premier institutes like the IITs. Now this little infographic you see on top there, not the weird robo, that was AI, but the one on top, is from the Amritkal document, but in reality there are more than these institutes that are working. The IIT's automation of port operations has been given to IIT Madras. Digital twin models has been given to IIT Kharagpur. Sustainable maritime practices has been given to IIT Bombay. Cyber security frameworks has been given to IIT Delhi. IoT and big data analytics has been given to IIT Kanpur, and GIS-based navigation tools to IIT Roorkee. There is also room there for other institutes to step up and say we would like to volunteer. Another thing which I really like, here are the young minds and they've been given a clear direction and an outcome that we want by a certain date. And I think this is far more likely to lead to positive outcomes for us all. Also the setting up of COEs. I think one thing which is lacking is the speed with which legislative framework is changing. A personal pet topic for me is the MLETR, which is the model law for electronic transferable records. I think there are many, many other countries that have already adopted it. If there are people here still in the audience from the government, I think this is something we should pick up and we should actually push through to have electronic bills of lading and all other electronic documents become a reality in this country, which will be huge for achieving this India great maritime nation. Skilling and reskilling has been covered by many of my able colleagues, and also widening the net of talent. Somebody mentioned fewer women in the audience, and I did notice it as well. What then is the role of the private sector? First thing is that we need to create the digital data, which we said is lacking. So the private sector, if we're serious about all this happening, has to ensure that they go digital and go fast. And they are that first point of digitization, the first time when some activity is actually happening on ground, which is, neither on paper nor on digital. It's still an activity, it's something that's being done. How do we capture it right there in a digital form? Not that we get it on paper and then somebody rehashes it onto a computer and then somebody again rehashes it somewhere else, and then we make 13 copies and send it to 13 departments and each of them feed it into their computers again. Because we don't yet have that manner of catching it right there in a digital form and then ensuring that it can be shared to all the relevant parties. We also need to make sure that whatever we do has the ability to interconnect. still no one's even looking at it. We seem to take great pride in saying this is mine. If we genuinely want to pitch at this India Great Maritime Nation, a differentiator, because I'm not saying anyone in the world does it better, nobody does it better yet, but a differentiator could be, here's this country that's learned to leverage the power of we with data and is sharing data faster, smoother, more secure. It will take us way ahead of many others. Talk about process improvement and cost optimization. This can only be done by private sector because the government gets data after it's filtered through so many layers of individual companies, associations, and everybody else. So the ones who have to bring about change in process has to be private sector. Data exchange, I spoke about that, and also ensure that this data and this digital journey is actually improving metrics like DEI and actually bringing in ethical business. One of the things our great nation is infamous for is supposedly our lack of transparency. And it's so very easy for us to flip the story around. Here's the opportunity, technology exists, and if we are able to actually execute this plan, this grand master plan, and not just become one more, in the archives, and then we all can sit back calmly and say, oh, they made a document, but nothing happened. A large part of the onus has been placed on private sector, on educators, and then back on government. So it will require for once a great seamless interaction for this to come true. I ended with a tathastu, which in Sanskrit means so be it. I think there's an adage long back, gold is the real value or currency, then it became oil is the new gold, then it became data is the new oil, but I think now it's collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. That's the new gold or the new oil or whatever you might want to call it, the new value. So thank you so much.
Excellent, thank you so much. Yes, I didn't have to remind you, thank you so much. Our next speaker is also a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, and the interesting part is his name is synonym with Gift City. So may I have Amit Oza, please. Everybody knows that the Gift City man.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, big thank you to the organizers for inviting me. I'm conscious that I'm standing between you and lunch, so I'll try to make this as quick as possible and as short. I hope you find it interesting. So my first slide. Can I just maximize this here? My first slide actually takes it from what Mr. Chati said in the first session. I must say it was a very honest and very unbiased view of Indian shipping. And this slide basically highlights or sort of zooms in on what you mentioned about Indian shipping. As most of you know, I'm from commercial shipping. I've spent the last 30 years in commercial shipping. I have some colleagues of mine, Ashok from here, who's also from commercial shipping. We spent most of our lives abroad. We've not had too many opportunities in India. And what actually gave the impetus for me to get involved with IFSC was the fact that there are so few opportunities in India for people in commercial shipping. And of course, India is losing out in a big way because of it. So this slide highlights the current state. Most of the traders and most of the ship owners, as you know, in the private sector are outside India. The largest corporates in India are outside. You have Adani, you have the Aditya Birla Global Trading in Dubai. You have Reliance Trading, which recently shifted to Dubai. I believe the crude oil desk has come back to India, but the product desk is still there. You have The SPIC Group, which is in Singapore. You have JW International, which conducts all its trading operations from Singapore. And of course, Tata has centrally kept its global sourcing and shipping based out of Singapore. What has also followed is the ship owners going out. So recently we had Seven Island moving out. We have Pampal, which is part of the Alumni Group. You have Tolani, which has been out for quite a while. You have Senmark, which recently moved out two of its vessels. The Transworld Group has been based in Dubai for a long time. You have the Jaldi, part of Group, which is outside. The information on the right provides you a snapshot of the various industries, the commercial industry in India. So we have about 12 million GT of Indian registered tonnage, which is, as Mr. Chaki said, about less than 1% of the global tonnage. We have 0.4 million deadweight of Indian shipyard capacity, which is less than 0.5% of global. And then the list carries on. If you look at ship operators, most of them are based in Dubai or Singapore with just their post-fixture operations outfit here. Ship finance, I'm sorry, because this is. Oh, you want this? Okay. Oh, okay, then you can. Thanks. Your shipping finance, as you know, Indian banks, they don't figure in the top 80. You have the list of banks there which are active in financing. You have ship management, and of course that's one of the bright spots. There's a lot of crewing happening from here, but then the technical contracts, the comprehensive contract for management are not signed here. So if I was to give you an example, a technical management firm in Chennai would typically sign the contracts in Singapore and just have the RSPL here, do the crewing part here, and collect the money in Singapore. We'll come to the reasons in the next slide. The last slide you see there are all the software, the commercial software companies across the world. And I'm sure Davos is something you should look at it. Obviously, the very limited Indian presence in spite of having a very large IT industry in India. It's a similar case with shipbroking. You mostly have local firms with at best regional focus. Some of them have Dubai offices or maybe Singapore offices. You have GCCs which have come up in some ways. You have Cargill, you have Dreyfus, which has a Damage Excellence Center in Delhi. CTM is outsourced its billing to India. You have Drury, which I think most of the research work is now being done from Delhi. And of course, we have local companies like Davos, which is looking at providing DA services and back office services. So let's look at the reasons. Of course, as we all know, commercial shipping is highly fungible. You don't need to be at a particular state. To service India, you don't need to be in India. And what has happened is, over the years, an arbitrage has developed in tax and regulatory affairs, which has led to these companies, this entire ecosystem, move out of India. So what are the key tax drivers which has sort of led people to or made shipping companies and operators move out of India? So if you look at ship owners, you have very high corporate tax. You have the problem of 5% import GST, which you don't pay in other states. So if I buy a ship in India, I pay 5% when I import the ship. If I'm in Dubai and if I import the ship, I don't pay anything. So I can service the Indian trade from Dubai with my Dubai-owned ship without many of these import taxes being paid. You have the problem of capital gain tax. When I sell ships in India, I have a 5% capital gain tax on whatever was the differential between my buying and selling price. I have various other taxes like withholding taxes when I operate out of India. There's an FTS, which is a foreign technical service tax, which essentially means that if I go for dry docking, and whatever is the dry docking bill, there's a withholding of 10% on it, which I don't pay from Dubai. So it's a no-brainer for me not to operate out of India, but to operate from a jurisdiction where I save a lot of money. And this is a substantial amount of money. On the flip side, I also have regulatory problems, right? It doesn't end with taxation. So I have to compulsorily fly the Indian flag as per section 2021, whatever may be my trading pattern and whatever may be my crewing preferences. I have a requirement in terms of tonnage tax. I have a reserve requirement. So most global tonnage taxes don't have any reserve requirement. It's a simple number that you pay the flag state at the end of it. But the Indian tonnage tax comes with a lot of riders. 20% of your profits annually has to be kept into a tonnage reserve tax, which I have to use within 8 years to buy an Indian flagship, which I can't sell for 3 years. So these sort of restrictions, in fact, one of the owners who was in London, an Indian guy, said it's not tonnage tax, it's tonnage trap for me. I'm trapped in a continuous talent cycle. So these are the reasons why a lot of people have gone out. And of course, we have FEMA. And of course, FEMA is something we can't do anything about. The state in which the economy is, we need to manage our foreign exchange. But it means that remitting out money and receiving money, receiving is easy, remitting out money is extremely painful. And it's a longer process. I have ECB norms, so if I have to borrow money from external parties, there are norms which I have to go through. There are limitations on the interest rates. There are limitations on prepayments. So this all basically flows from the fact that we have a current account deficit and we have to manage it, and we have to manage our foreign exchange. It's a similar case for operators, people who lease in vessels and lease out. The key problem for operators is that there's a famous ruling of Kumpuar case in 2014 of the High Court of Chennai, which basically said that payment of charter hire is a royalty payment. As soon as it's a royalty payment and not a commercial payment, it attracts a withholding of 20%. So if I'm in India and if I charter a vessel, I need to pay 20% withholding even before I've actually made any profits. So it's a turnover tax. It's a withholding on my total charter hire that I pay out of India. So obviously it's a no-brainer apart from the other facts that there's high corporate tax and stuff like that. So what has actually happened due to these taxes and regulatory arbitrage is that the city-states around us, they've been quick to take advantage of this. And this is not only in shipping, it's also in international finance. You find Indian banks there, Indian financial institutions there. But finance, trade and shipping, these are basically the fungible activities of any economy. And that has moved out. So you've had Singapore, which has this AIS and AIT scheme. I'm sure you're familiar. There's a 10-year tax holiday. Once you qualify as an AIS, or an approved international shipping company, or approved international trading company. There are various schemes, regulation-wise, they don't have any of these issues. Dubai is, of course, tax-free, and there are very easy regulations. So all this has meant that the ecosystem in India got stunted in terms of brokers, insurance companies, lawyers. The entire ecosystem has essentially been plucked out and moved to these city-states which have grown. So the next sort of section deals with the growth of city-state. We all know it. There's no need to repeat. Singapore has seen a phenomenal growth. Obviously, all this is not only because of India, but it's because of the policies of attracting capital and talent globally, and to emerge as a major center for finance, trade, and shipping, which has led to the growth. We've seen DMCC showing very spectacular growth, and a lot of Indian shipping companies which are currently in DMCC. But of course, the last 3 or 4 decades have seen a phenomenal rise of these city-states, but they're facing issues. We have this issue of manpower in Singapore now. We have EP being issued very sparingly because there's pressure from the locals. Dubai has issues with FATF because of the type of funding which is coming in, and recently brought out the grey list, the white list, but again, that's another question mark. Your problem with residencies and visa, geopolitical issues. And of course, the cost of operations are increasing phenomenally in all these city-states because obviously because of their the nature of advantages that they offer. Everybody wants to be there, so it's getting more and more expensive. Availability of manpower, a lot of people have spoken about the fact that India has a lot of talent available, so that's also coming up as one of the key problems with Singapore and Dubai. And of course, they don't have any domestic markets. A lot of my panelists have already spoken about the Indian enablers, but I'll quickly sort of go through it. One of the key things is, of course, money. There's a popular misnomer that India doesn't have money for financing and ships, so we don't have enough cash and stuff like that. So let's look at hard numbers. So total assets under management for Indian banking is 1.3 trillion. Just the PE and VC equity flow, the annual equity flow is between 40 to 60 billion. Right? And we have ship owners who are talking of business plans of 20 or 30 million, which is very, very small compared to the size of the market and the size of availability of funds that we have. So where does the problem lie? So the problem essentially lies in because the ecosystem has been taken away, you don't have enough talent in the financial system to actually evaluate these opportunities. So whenever you're lending, it's a balance of risk and opportunity. And unless a banker or a money lender is able to balance these and properly evaluate it and disburse funds, you won't have the system working, which is exactly what is happening in India. Of course, the VC and PE system hardly knows anything about the shipping market. They are more focused on the healthcare and the IT/ITs industry, which are basically domestic industry and high growth industry. But the banks basically go in for asset financing. Basically, they want either 100% of the money in some form of security or collateral, or they want some sort of bank guarantees or some sort of stock guarantees because they don't understand shipping. Because part of it is also driven by the fact that they lost a lot of money during the credit boom and when shipping prices suddenly went down. And that's when they realized that balance sheets also don't work. And there was a time when RBI also placed ship financing in watch list. But that's something which needs to be addressed by building up the skills. And of course, the markets, we move almost a billion tons of cargo annually through our ports, which is a lot of cargo to be used as base for building your commercial shipping. Of course, it's debatable whether you want to place restrictions on it or whether you want to develop actually the capability to handle it economically and sustainably. The GDP is set to increase. The GDP per capita is set to increase phenomenally. I don't need to repeat the story. And of course, the manpower. I think enough has been said about the manpower, but 400 to 500 million individuals in the working age group for the next foreseeable future. So, when the theme of this particular session is about the potential for Indian shipping. And if these things are addressed, in my opinion, and I think a lot of them are being addressed as we speak, the first and foremost is policy. So the policy focus has to shift from actually supporting your industry in terms of protectionism to actually allowing capital and talent to flow into the Indian market. And the domestic industry will certainly gain and will also thrive instead of showing this country now. So if you look at Singapore, if you go to any Singapore shipping event, you will find ship owners, operators, financiers, lawyers from all over the world. And does that help the Singapore shipping industry as well? Yes, it does. Right from employment to lawyers to people coming in. You see a thriving ecosystem from talent and capital from all over the world coming in. And also it's a bit like what we're trying to do is frankly to set up these maggot lines. I don't know if you heard of maggot lines, which the French used in the Second World War. This was run over in a couple of hours by the Germans. So these sort of defensive lines don't work, unfortunately, and they only result in this country growth for here and now. Taxes, of course, you need to make it at par. Regulations need to be streamlined. Local financing, this is very important given the size of the economy. You need to scale up and scale up the local financing. And you need world-class trained manpower. This is where the institutes will play a critical role. This is where ICS, Nautical Institute, World Maritime University, I think will play a critical role in upskilling the manpower here to actually manage. We need more seed companies, people who are, for example, a lot of funds which are given to Indian shipping companies are by Chinese, which is a small Taiwanese company, which was a startup just 10 years ago. And they are so successful in leasing that they're giving funds for ships worldwide. It's a very small company. So these sort of leasing companies need to come up. These sort of grassroots level talent has to come up. And of course, the big question is, a lot of people argue, does India have the capability actually to be a significant global center? And I say a center because, as you can see, most of the shipping activities now concentrated on cities and centers. If you look at the DNV Menon report or the Baltic Zenwa report, it talks of global cities and centers. So that's what is actually driving. If you have, for example, if London is a major center, you would find it very difficult to talk of any other British city which comes close to London. So if you look at Sheffield or Hull, you might have a university or two there. But the center is only London. Similarly, if you look at China, it's basically Shanghai, Beijing picks up there. Even New York, even US, it's New York and Connecticut where the entire shipping and banking is focused in more than one place. So you would have to look at a shipping center in India, and that would have to be something which is able to attract global talent and global capital. And given the manpower, given the IT prowess, given the fact that India has the capability, the infrastructural and the soft power to host such a center, it is important that we work towards it. So this is just a projection which we came up internally based on a desktop study as to what can actually happen if all these were to align and if we were to get a center which can actually harness all of this. I'll just take 2 minutes to talk about IFSCA. As many of you may or may not know, IFSCA is an authority which has been set up by an act of Parliament to create a zone which is FEMA free. So in this zone, you can freely transact in dollars without having to worry about regulatory impact of FEMA. You're basically operating in a zone where capital accountability is allowed. So this is where you have the advantage of freely remitting and receiving dollars. You have a 10-year tax holiday, you don't have any withholding tax, you don't have any capital gain tax, and shipping and shopping commodity trading would be illegal. So finally, I would like to end by talking about ICS. I think one of the key aspects of ICS, which our chairman also mentioned, was the business ethics. I think that's something which is very critical for the Indian environment, especially the commercial environment. We find that there are a lot of informal overlays, and where it hurts is our perception. So when we try to market ourselves globally, when you try to go to a large line and say, okay, I'm an Indian shipbroker, I'm an Indian ship financer, I'm an Indian ship owner, the perception has to change for that, playing with informal overlay and a protected system to a professional person who's able to deliver goods globally. Thank you.
Thanks, Amit. Please stay back. Can I have all the speakers please come back to the stage? And can we have Captain Ashok from ICS? Can we have Mr. Ashok Jain? Can we have Mr. Captain Sanjeev Verma? And can we have Jyoti? Jyoti, please give this to Hariharan, please. Meera. Captain Ashok, can you please give this?
Yeah, and thank you, Anupam. We must give a big round of applause for Anupam.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for Anupam.
Thank you so much, sir. Can we all have a photograph, please? Yeah, please. Switch off the presentation, please. Switch off the presentation. Switch off the. Okay, thank you. We have a few more, just 3 more things to be done. Sorry for that, but the Sailor Today lucky draw is out, and we had 2 people who were sailing from here. Can they just come here on stage so that whoever has won, we can, can you just come on the stage, please? You have not won, but you just come to give the.
Yes, I got that.
And we had one third engineer, he's again vanished. Oh, come. So there are 2 names. The one who's got the 5,000 rupees is Dr. Sanjeev Kanungo. Is he here? He's gone out?
And I will call him, please.
Take 1, take 2, please come. So it's just a photo op, but your name, so that we can tell Sailor Today to give your, please, you can shake hands. So Dr. Sanjeev Kanungo gets 5,000 rupees gift voucher, thank you so much. And Captain Makarand Sardesai gets 10,000 rupees. Where is he? Is he here? Is he here? If he's not, he's also in the washroom. Please. Come. Come. No, just shake hands. The gift voucher will come. Half. Thank you so much. We all mentioned that there is a personality with us, and we do definitely have to hear him at least for 2 minutes. So may I please welcome Deepak Shetty.
Respected Chief Guest, the Consul General of Sweden, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies, I suddenly got parachuted amidst you. So, if there's anyone who is to be faulted, between me and lunch, here's the guy.
Knock, knock, hello.
Things to happen, the most it will happen.
So I guess I was not very welcome. Be that as it may, I'll be very brief. At the outset, kudos to all the three organizations for conceptualizing this collaboration. I think it augurs very well going forward. Each of you has its own unique strengths, and to the extent that you're able to leverage this compatibility, I think it's only going to be exponential, and hopefully it's going to be beneficial in the years to come. I'll be very, very brief really. The first thing that I wanted to point out, having read the presentations across the last 3 to 4 hours, here's my take on it. Coming as I do from the civil service background, I think it's imperative for us to look at having a holistic, a clear and a cogent national transportation policy. At the outset, I think I cannot but overemphasize this fact that there has to be a very cohesive national transportation document, because fundamentally you have 4 competing modes. It is just as well that they all compete with each other. However, I think we should not lose the fact that there are complementarities and synergies which we need to invoke. Otherwise, we'll be frittering away all our resources and energy in that process. The second element, and these are very random thoughts, I just want to drive home this point. I think you look at shipping, it's a very strategic sector. World over, you look at any mature, developed nation, it is pretty much configured that shipping is where you need to be, and if you want to be a key player, a global player, I'm not using the kinetic term, which is the force differentiator, but purely as an enabler for growth and development. So it's just as well that the government has somewhat belatedly, and I'm not constrained by the Civil Service Code of Conduct any longer, so I could be as candid as I can be, but it is just as well that the government has somewhat belatedly recognized that it needs to sort of support and create an ecosystem. Better late than never. I had an occasion of being invited in the recent past by the National Security Council Secretariat under the National Security Advisor, and I was asked to make a presentation of what I perceive ought to be the prescription for a good national policy. And I won't dwell in it because it was a 2-hour presentation that I made, but I was delighted because there were 3 deputy NSAs who were present in that audience. There were about 17 other joint secretary level officers from the National Security Council Secretariat. The bottom line of my argument, the pitch, was that a time has come where we need to sort of emphasize on the importance of merchant shipping per se. The other elements which I just want to quickly run you through is, we have this huge proposition of sea blindedness. We have a National Maritime Day, we have all these events, but in a manner of speaking, we are only sort of sermonizing to the already preached. There is a huge national population which I'm afraid is blissfully unaware of all that the industry does. And if you really want to grow, you need to bring all of these strengths of the vast stratas of society into the play here as well. To that extent, what we need to convert is the sea-mindedness from sea-blindedness. I think that will raise this exponentially. The other element which I wanted to sort of drive home is the geopolitical, there's an external environment which is clearly beyond our control. You look at the various geographical hotspots, and I think they're not going to end anytime soon. You'll have them popping up in different geographies and jurisdictions. But I think we must be extremely mindful and fit into our calculus, into the way we reckon things, that this is a critical element for which we need to bring the overall paradigm of risk management into play. Whether it's risk identification, and all of this has to be done on a 360 degrees active basis. Risk identification, risk mitigation, risk resilience, if anything, that you need to ensure. Because it's only then that what you can do internally, what is within your control, you can possibly factor, but the external wider environment, which is well beyond you, you need to sort of ensure that. For example, let's take COVID. No one in the world ever foresaw that happening. But is that the last one really? God forbid, fingers crossed. That leaves me, I'm just sort of giving some random thoughts here. We all talked about digitalization, and I think the power, exponential power of new age technologies, whether it's artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and all of that, fancy terms. But at the end of the day, what is the emphasis on cybersecurity that we have laid? Because all of this can come to naught if we don't get our act together in ensuring that our infrastructure is secure. And here I would like to just submit a paper which I had presented when I was additional DG. And I can recall with a great deal of satisfaction and pride, and I don't mean to blow my own trumpet here. How many of you are aware of the Information Technology Act 2000? Right, you're familiar? It has undergone multiple iterations over a period of time. When I was additional DG, I moved a paper for securing the Digicom Center and ensuring coverage under Section 70 of this enactment. And what is the essence? The underlying essence is the entire might, the whole of government, WOG, comes into being, into play in identifying a particular framework or paradigm as what is called as quote unquote critical information infrastructure. And once a framework, a template is so identified, then there are multiple levels of security which come into, cybersecurity which come into play. And lo and behold, when I put up this proposition to the government, it went through. It took about 4 to 5 months, only for me to discover that the Digicom Center was the first ever paradigm anywhere in the country, across any ministry or department, which received the benefit of critical information infrastructure identification. So all I'm saying is that we need to look beyond and then identify and say that how do you protect your vital resources? Because I think what can really bring everything down is the fact that we are not mindful of some of these risks that are inherent at play. The last but 1 or 2 points that I wanted to flag here is we all talk about, the upgradation of ports, all other infrastructure facilities and the like. These are all the hard power imprints, but the soft power part of it, in terms of tangible business process re-engineering, in ensuring that all government agencies come on board on a common platform. Here there is this huge perennial battle of turf wars. There's an ego issue. One department doesn't see eye to eye with each other. So you have a national logistic portal which is there now. But how many of these players have really come on board even as on date? So this is a tall ask, but I think its time has come. So I quite see that the Prime Minister's office and the National Security Council Secretariat are uniquely positioned in this journey in the next 25 years that we have embarked upon, this Amrit Kaal Vision document and all of that, Viksit Bharat. that everybody needs to be brought on board. And here I would like to invoke what I keep off repeating, the nudge theory. How many of you have heard of this nudge academic proposition? You have, right? This is a paradigm which won the Nobel Peace Prize in Economics, Nobel Prize in Economics in 2018. Dr. Richard Thaler from the Chicago Business School and Dr. Cass Sunstein from the Michigan Business School in the US. They were the earliest proponents of this theory. So in public policy, they articulated, and this is almost 6 years down the line, that if you want to use persuasive powers, then you need to use the theory of nudge. You keep chipping. But I'm afraid in the government of India, we are well past the nudge proposition. We really need to come with a sledgehammer and to get everybody to be on the same page. So business process re-engineering, which we need to cut through the clutter, cut through all the noise, is what is, I think, is going to be a huge challenge. I'm afraid otherwise all of this can really, we would be well behind. The penultimate piece which I wanted to share with you here is the timeliness of all policy making decisions. And it is with deep regret when I look back in retrospect, the Merchant Shipping Bill 2016, which was drafted when I was then Director General, it was an arduous process. It was a year-long process, and courtesy the support of all of you stakeholders, we were able to put this through. And in 2017 May, when Dr. Malini Shankar succeeded me, I received a text message from her. I hadn't met her at that point in time until then. She messaged me that the parliamentary select committee which had gone into evaluated the draft merchant shipping bill had complemented that broadly it was meeting all the requirements. However, there were a few issues which the committee wanted the Ministry of Shipping to come back to them. So I perceived at that point in time, 4 months post my superannuation, that this would be an easy wrap-up. But what is a matter of immense regret that 8 years down the line, we still have that bill which is languishing. And hopefully now we hear that the 2024 version, the avatar of that, will be the Santa Claus that we are all looking for, hopefully. This reminds me, it took me just 1 year, if you recall, in 2015, again, when and I'm not trying to blow my trumpet here, this was one of the 2 asks which Mr. Nitin Gadkari, as the then shipping minister, clearly mandated me. He said, Mr. Shetty, I need you to do 2 things. One is bring about an Admiralty bill. You may recall that up until then, we had Admiralty Acts, 6 of them, dating back to 1831 to 1890. Well, the pre-British era. It just took us 1 year, and this is a collective endeavor. We were able to push that through, and sure enough, in the next year, the residual year of my tenure, we were able to get that through. So all I'm saying is that a policy pronouncement has to be actually implemented in a very timely manner. Otherwise, you could be just drifting aimlessly, and I think all of this can be a chimera or a moonshine, as it were. And the final piece which I want to share with you is that the proposition of business integrity, it is so critical to the success or failure of all initiatives. I recall in my new incarnation as Senior Advisor to the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, heading its India operations, I had the good fortune of being invited by the India B20, the Business 20 track during India's presidency of the G20, if you recall, from 1st December 2022 up until 30th November 2023. So at that time, when we looked at as to how do we sort of revamp and reform, and this is a figure you would have probably heard times out of number, that India's logistic cost is 14% of the national GDP, and it's humongous, and this is an utter contrast to mature developed nations whose logistic cost is no more than 8 to 9%. So what explains that differential between that 4 to 5%? So I did a bit of research, and of course I was assisted by my colleagues. We said at the very minimum, you look at the entire value chain of maritime and logistics. And this is without fear of contradiction. At the very minimum, we were able to demonstrate empirically through paper submitted to the Indian B20, that at least 1% is attributable to corruption all along the value chain. It is literally corroding and eating into the vitals of the economy. So if you're able to get our act together, fix this, and in substantive and tangible terms, and to me, I think that's going to be a huge enabler and differentiator. And how do you do that? It's a no-brainer. You need to digitize. Ensure that the physical interface between a public functionary and the stakeholder is completely eliminated. Because that's where, when you have this tango of these two, that makes for a heady cocktail. So that interface is what you need to completely eliminate and move to a regime where transactions are completely seamless and frictionless. So I think digitization is the mantra, but of course backed with an entire buffer of cybersecurity. So I quite see, I think there's a bit of inertia and NUI or boredom creeping in. So before I'm moved out, it's about time. I must thank Captain Anupam. It was very gracious of him. It's not very often that you tend to get foisted on occasions like this, but I'm delighted to be here amidst all of you. I sort of heard and looked at a lot of these presentations with keenness. I wish all of you who are here in the wider community all the very best in your endeavors, and I hope the aspiration, call it ambition or aspiration, whatever term you want to use, in the next 20-25 years, we're able to scale that peak. Many of us may possibly be not around, but I'm sure the progeny, the next succeeding generations will sort of be testimony to all the kind of things that we would have done now. Thank you so much. All the
Thank you so much, sir. I was just looking at the crowd when you were speaking. Some of us had their jaws dropped because we didn't know what you were speaking. We needed a dictionary. Network is not there, but amazing. Everybody was absolutely paying attention, rapt attention. Last person to come here, Captain Philip Matthew. He has been the sutradhar of this, all three associations coming together. And I would like to give you the vote of thanks. Please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, I am now the last person and I am standing in the way of your lunch. I would try to make it as fast as possible. This is a duty which is assigned to me, which has to be done. This process of having this seminar started last year in August, but though we had a meeting 3 months from now, but we are very happy that all three organizations have come, and though it is past 2:15, I can see more than 100 people still here. Thank you so much, and then thank you all for coming. Well, good afternoon again to everybody, respected guests. First of all, I must thank Dr. Professor Max Mia, President WMU, and Dr. Malini Shankar, Vice Chancellor IMU, for sending their clips, for wishing us the very best at this inaugural seminar. Mr. Shyam Jagannathan, DG Shipping, IAS, called me yesterday evening because of this cyclone Fengal. He had to go to Pondicherry where his son is, and he had to help him with some activities there. Our Honorable Chief Guest, Sven Osberg, with all the, though very busy with his schedule, he agreed to come and be with us all through the program. Thank you very much, sir. Captain Tyagi, CMD, SCI, ever supportive of all things. I went to his office. He told his EA to cancel any other program he had today, and he was here with us. Then I think there was some call, he had to leave. Mr. Arun Sharma ji, Captain Halbe accompanied me to visit him, and he was ever gracious, and he gave us all the facilities for organizing this. He even offered to completely sponsor the event, but though we politely said no, the hall itself is enough. Thank you very much to Arun Sharma ji and also Mr. P.K. Mishra, Managing Director of IRS. I must thank Mr. Deepak Shetty sir, IRS, our former DG, for being so grateful and having attended this the full time he was here with us and also enlightened us with his views. Thank you very much, sir. I thank all the people who have come from Dr. Vakil and his family has come all the way from Chennai. Thank you, sir. I see Captain Sanjeev Verma, Dr. B.K. Saxena, Amit Oza sir, and many others who have travelled a long distance. The team from Tolani and attended this. Thank you so much for having shown so much interest and having made this sacrifice. Thank you. I now come to the moderators of our session. Captain Halbe, well-known moderator and also an ideator of many events. Captain Pankaj Kumar, I see him doing first time, but an excellent moderation. And Captain Anupam Raizada, all three of them did a wonderful job moderating all the three sessions. Thank you so much. Our speakers from the World Maritime University, India Alumni Association, DIG Mukund Gujjar, who stepped in the last minute for Mr. Donny Michael, who again had to attend some important meeting at Delhi. Then Professor Anish Heber from the World Maritime University, and Sri Anuruddha Chakki, DDG Technical from DG Shipping. From the Nautical Institute, Captain Kapil Bahel, Dr. Surinder Kumar, Captain Debu and Captain Bhatia, and representing the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, Mr. Amit Oza, Ms. Meera Kumar, and Sri Hariharan Subhaiya, my former colleague at SCI. Thank you all so much. All you attendees, once again, thank you so much. Without your participation, the event of this magnitude could not have succeeded. Overall, without the success of our sponsors, also an event of this magnitude could not have been held. I would like to thank Nisha Roadways, HIMT, a premier institute in India, Maritime Training Institute, again promoted by Dr. Sanjeev Vakil and his two children, Tirth and Kirtan. Both of them are alumni of WMU. They are here all the way from Chennai. I must also thank my own company, Seven Island Shipping Limited, Seabird Medicare, MSc, very generously by Captain Vasim, Dynacom Tankers, Captain Mohan Naik, Reshamwala Shipbrokers. Thank you all so much for your sponsorship. I thank the various organizations which have supported us. Captain Vasim, the master of CMMI, has been sitting here the last 6 hours. I'm sure he must be very busy, but still he has spent time. I thank CMMI, IMEI, FOSMA, MASA, INSA, ICSA, INA, and all others who have lent us support, especially CMMI, they have supported, and MSc and ICS, who have even given us their office staff and supported us in organizing this event. Especially I must take the name of Sudhir, who has been here for last couple of days and who has worked very hard checking out and making all the arrangements here. The Maritime Press I cannot miss out. I can see Captain Kamal Chadda here. He leads the Marex team. We have Sailor today covering the entire event. We have CN Jobs. We have Bhandarkar Shipping Times. We have Exim, DST, and Mr. Manoj is here covering us for the Economic Times. Thank you so much. I also have seen Maritime Destination here. Thank you, Maritime Destination. I also thank the team of audiovisuals, the photographers, and if the food is good here, you must thank Delight Caterers. I must thank Mr. Vikal and Nityanand Shetty, the owners. The suppliers of the mementos, Javeri Brothers, the bouquets, whoever has supplied us the bouquets, I don't know their name. office bearers of the World Maritime India Alumni Association, Nautical Institute, and Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. I must specially name out some of the people who assisted with this. The head of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, Captain Ashok Gogia, Captain Mohan Naik, Captain Ashok Gogia would be with minute details, he would be ringing me up and asking me, ये ऐसा है, वैसा है. Then he would tell me, irritate तो नहीं हुआ, irritate तो कैसा होएगा. Thanks to Amit Deshpande, Captain Kamat, Captain Pankaj Kumar, the heads of the organizations, Captain Mohan Naik, Rajneesh Kandelwal, and Ashok Gogia sir again. Special thanks again to the team of IRS, and I must take the names of the people who helped us. Sudhir and Kumar Tala from CMMI, Valerie from ICS, and again thanks to Captain Basim Messia from MSc. So special thanks finally again to IRS. Without the help of IRS, it was very difficult to get a venue like this. If I have missed out thanking anyone, it is only inadvertent, and please pardon any lapse on that count. Thank you all. I hope you all have all enjoyed this seminar, and I hope we are taken the first step to make India really a great maritime nation. Bon appetite and lunch awaits you all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, everybody please proceed for lunch. Thank you so much.